So look, here's the deal. We spent some time talking about the City of Montreal's decision, and that's now official, to restrict Airbnb rentals in this city to 3 months a year. It'll be June 10th to September 10th. That's it. That's on the books as of yesterday. Well, Airbnb, as you can imagine, is not real happy with the decision. I had a chance to speak earlier this afternoon to Alex Howell. She is policy lead for Airbnb in Canada, and I began by asking for her reaction to the city's decision.
We're obviously very disappointed that the city's moved ahead with this short-sighted, pretty extreme measure that's going to have huge impacts on the city. Preventing Montrealers from sharing their primary residence, which is the home that they live in full-time while they're away on vacation, is going to do nothing to address the housing crisis in the city. It will, however, give visitors fewer accommodation options. It's going to make it more expensive for people to travel there. Last year, more than 400,000 guests stayed in an Airbnb between September and June. Where are those folks going to stay after this law goes into effect? And we've done the numbers. We estimate this measure will cost Montreal over $400 million a year in economic activity and really impact about 4,400 jobs. So we're obviously disappointed and want to make sure that Montrealers are aware of what those impacts are going to be.
So I have a couple of questions. The city says or contends that by doing this, it will free up, and we know affordable housing is an issue not here, but in a lot of cities, but specifically in Montreal, it's been an issue for a while. And the city says this will free up 2,000 housing units or homes. That's their figure. Do you dispute that figure as well?
We do. There has been a mounting body of evidence that has shown that short-term rentals really don't have an impact on housing affordability. And that really is because they are such a small portion of the available housing stock overall. And not only that, in most areas of Montreal, residents are already restricted to only sharing their primary residence. So what they're doing here is telling people that in their own home that they live in full time, if they go away over the winter, they're not allowed to share their space if they're on vacation down south. That's not making more housing available. It's just preventing folks that are there from making a little bit of extra money.
Thing is, we know that this is not unique to Montreal. Sometimes I think we tend to, kind of look at this like we're in a vacuum. Many cities around the world, cities like Montreal, have put restrictions on Airbnb, and they've been there for longer than Montreal has as far as restrictions go. If they find it's a problem so many other places and Montreal is finding it now, how do you answer that? I mean, it's obviously a problem when cities decide they need to put restrictions in place.
Well, Quebec already has pretty strict regulations on short-term rentals across the entire province. The city of Montreal is required to allow hosts to rent before they can get a provincial license to do so. Montreal already has what it needs to support any enforcement within the city without taking these extreme measures. The Quebec Minister of Tourism herself has stated the compliance across the province is high, and she said that this move will, hurt both Montreal's reputation and tourism, and also noted, that it's only Montreal that struggled under the new law. Other cities have expressed support for this system and have made it work for them. If a Montreal official believes a host is ineligible to operate an Airbnb, all they needed to do is to decline to provide notice to the province that they're allowed to rent, and that property is just unable to operate on any platform. They've had all of these tools they needed to enforce their laws. Now they've taken these extra steps that are really going to hurt folks that are in compliance, have gone through all of the steps to get licensed through the provincial system, and are suddenly unable to share their home 75% of the year.
I think we also, though, heard, to be fair, from the city suggesting that many of these, you're referring to regulations that the provincial government put in place after the situation at the old Montreal fire. Despite that, there apparently have been ways for people to get around this, right? To get around having to get a permit number, whatever else, and it's a significant number into the thousands. So as much as that was in theory a good idea, in principle, it did not seem to work as well. How much responsibility should Airbnb bear for this?
Well, we certainly take our responsibilities under the Quebec law very seriously. We comply with those. We make sure that our hosts are providing us with the information that they have to in order to operate on the platform. And again, it is really down to Montreal to have made sure that when they sign off on a host saying they would like to rent their place, that host is eligible to rent in the city of Montreal. Other cities have managed to do this in an effective way. It really just seems to be Montreal and Quebec specifically that's struggling here. And we would have been very open to conversations with them about how we could support what they're trying to achieve here. But Unfortunately, we haven't had a whole lot of outreach. We haven't been able to meet with them and to discuss some of those other options. And so we've ended up in this situation, which we really don't see as being able to have a big impact. What it will do, as I said, is stop those primary residence hosts from sharing their space. A significant portion of those tell us that they're sharing their space in order to afford their mortgage, in order to stay in their homes, or in some cases even to avoid eviction. And so we want to make sure that those hosts are able to continue to do so. And we'll, of course, work with our host community to try to make sure they are as supported as possible through this situation.
Just to understand, it seems to me last time when the provincial government got involved, you did have, or Airbnb did have discussions with the provincial government at the time. I remember someone from Airbnb coming up here actually to Quebec City. Are you saying that this time, Montreal specifically, there were no discussions between the city and Airbnb before this went into effect?
Unfortunately not. We did reach out and, we're hoping to meet with them in advance, but did not receive a response before yesterday when the law went into a vote. So unfortunately, they weren't interested in our opinion. Of course, we work with cities around the world, across the country as well here. There are lots of ways that we could have suggested to them that they may have wanted to go as a separate direction, but unfortunately they really decided that this was how they were going to proceed and didn't consult not just with us, but they also didn't consult with hosts, with their own constituents to see how this was going to impact them or affect them. We had a number of our hosts reach out to us saying that they had tried to, make their voices heard on this, and unfortunately it seems that they weren't successful.
Can I just ask, you mentioned other cities across Canada, obviously, that have, issues perhaps and have taken measures. You said you've had discussions with them. Can you give us just a comparison, say to a city like Toronto, for example? What are their laws relative to ours?
Yeah, so Toronto also has a primary residence restriction. So hosts are only allowed to share the home that they live in full time, similar to what a lot of cities around the country and around the world have done, but they are allowed to do so over the course of the year. The City of Toronto has limited how many nights per year, so it's 180 nights per year that a host could share their home, but that's not in a specific time frame. So that recognizes that sometimes folks are away over the summer, sometimes they're away in the winter. They may go away for long weekends all summer long because they are headed to their cottage. Whatever it looks like, the city is the city is flexible enough in its rules to actually adjust to individual circumstances. And on the flip side, recognize that people travel to major cities for all kinds of reasons throughout the year, and that they are in need of spaces to stay, and they may choose to stay in a short-term rental. If they're coming to Montreal, that may not be an option for them.
Alex, I'm out of time. I thank you so much. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Alex Howell. She is the, as I said, policy lead for Airbnb in Canada. Interesting. Remember when this first became a provincial issue? Airbnb had a representative up here. They didn't take a lot of questions at the time, but I do remember a meeting in Quebec City when it was the idea of, you're going to need a permit. And then we found out people are finding ways to get around that. This time, Montreal passed this bylaw yesterday with no consultation or discussion at all with Airbnb, which strikes me as a bit odd. Why wouldn't you have that? Okay.